So in this brief tutorial, I'll walk you through how to write a showing introduction paragraph and really focus on this particular strategy, which is to grab the reader's attention. Bear in mind that you have a number of really effective quality models in Chapter 4 of CEA books, so that'd be a really great place to go after you watch and listen to this tutorial. So let me first give you some context for the showing intro paragraph, and I'll do that by giving you a simile or an analogy. An effective attention grabber is a lot like writing an effective headline for an article. And I think there are really two parts to that similarity. The first part is this a headline for an article, much like an attention grabber. The goal is to capture attention, to capture the reader's attention. But I think the second goal, and probably the more important one, is a really effective headline does a great job of conveying the ideas that will be discussed, or the information that will be discussed in the article, and that's exactly what an attention grabber does. So it's not just simply about grabbing attention, but it's also about really taking advantage of an opportunity to expose your reader to the ideas that you'll be discussing in an essay. And to finish here, I'll give you this sentiment from Natalie Bolton. This was during her freshman year, and she made this statement. One of the goals of the intro is to drag the thesis statement through the paragraph. And I thought that was a really great statement, again, because the primary purpose here of this paragraph is to really clearly convey, here are the ideas that will be explored. So the purpose is pretty simple. I'm going to explain how you can go about constructing a showing writing introduction paragraph. Let's start with some key concepts. The first is the four phases of a showing intro paragraph. The first phase is this attention grabber, this hook. Another way to think of it is as a catchy example that displays the idea or the claim in your thesis statement. Then, as you do with any example that you provide in a rhetorical analysis, a rhetorical argument, or rhetorical synthesis, is now you got to elaborate extensively. You've got to explain this example to me extensively, especially connecting it to your thesis statement and discussing it in a way so that for this rhetorical analysis for 12 Angry Men, that you're discussing how the rhetoric is functioning in this attention grabber example that you presented. The next step would be then to transition, to use transitional words and phrases that show me the relationship between the attention grabber that you used and your thesis statement to help create this bridge to your thesis statement. And so we should be seeing language like, similarly, or, in contrast, etc. And then finally, I should get your thesis statement. And what I really especially want to point out here is that this framework for analysis that should exist in this paragraph, like in all of your paragraphs, where you present an example, and then you elaborate on the example, and then you transition to your next one. You're always executing this framework, and the intro is no exception. So what are the ways that you can grab the reader's attention? Well, one way is to quote another text. So you're going to blend an example from another text. Keep in mind that other texts can include literature for sure, but we're also thinking in terms of film, maybe even a song. That might be kind of challenging, but any text. Think about advertisements, visual advertisements that we've looked at, commercials. So you're just trying to find some catchy example that is going to display the idea in your thesis statement. The second option is to paraphrase another text. So rather than directly quote an example, you're going to rewrite the text in your own words by using sensory-based sentences. So visual texts are a great option here. Perhaps an advertisement, perhaps a photo, and it's very important that you really avoid summary. You're not just simply summarizing, you're paraphrasing, so there is a difference there. The third option is to quote the subject of your thesis statement. So obviously this would be 12 Angry Men. You can blend an example from 12 Angry Men, one that you're not using in your body paragraph. So you can't redundantly use this example in a body paragraph. You might think about, is there an example from your rhetorical analysis journal that you didn't end up using, but that still really supports your thesis statement, but it just didn't fit into the organizational pattern of your analysis. So you might think about using this example as an attention grabber for your intro. And our final option is you can paraphrase the subject of your thesis statement. So again, you're going to rewrite maybe a passage or scene from 12 Angry Men, there's a typo, sorry, from 12 Angry Men that uses sensory-based sentences. And again, you're not just simply summarizing, you're zooming in on a particular moment, and you're writing sentences that appeal to the senses, and again, sentences that function as an example, a catchy example that displays your idea and your thesis. All right, so now let me walk you through this model. So I've, in different colors, I have basically labeled each component or phase of the showing intro paragraph. So in red, this is our attention grabber, and in this case, the writer's chosen to quote an example from another text, To Kill a Mockingbird. And so we see a direct quotation, and remember, whenever you use a direct quote, you've got to blend the example smoothly. In this case, they blended smoothly by using a colon, and they're blending with some language that's connecting us back to the thesis statement. And this language here connects back pretty well. So this is an effective attention grabber that displays the ideas at work in the thesis statement. And then we see in yellow here elaboration. We see the writer explaining the example in detail. Notice how the writer's constantly using language to connect us back to our thesis statement. Teachable moments, exhibit empathy. He instructs, avoid judgment by considering other people's experiences. His role as an archetypal father, a parental figure, impart lessons. So the writer does a really great job of constantly connecting back to the thesis statement and talking about this example, elaborating extensively on it. And then we see transition. We see the writer do a great job of using transitional language like Atticus, Mark Twain's Jim implicitly teaches. And then the same thing, using words to glue us back to the thesis statement. Teaches connects us back. Fatherly connects us back. And here's another use of transitional language that establishes similarity. And then this last phase is the thesis statement. So again, we begin with an example that is, yes, catchy, that is a hook, that is an attention grabber, but more importantly, or most importantly, displays the idea in the thesis statement. And then we elaborate extensively on the example using word glue, and then we transition, again, using word glue, and particularly using transitions like the writer does here. So let me synthesize these concepts for you now. A quality attention grabber is all about finding the right example, the perfect example that displays your claim and your thesis statement. I really recommend that you work with the familiar text, something that you know. Don't just go Google for a quote or an example. Remember, whenever you use an exact quotation, a direct quotation, you always have to blend it. So use one of those three methods and blend the example with some associative language that connects us to your thesis statement. So those three methods are, to identify the speaker, to use a colon, or to blend the example as a natural part of your sentence. Use that list of transitional words and phrases from your word glue lecture. That's a really great language to rely on when you're bridging or you're transitioning to your thesis statement, that third phase in the paragraph. And then finally, we need to see word glue in your sentences of elaboration, language that's synonymous with the ideas in your thesis. All right, so in closing, here's a question for you to consider as you think about how you'll execute your intro for the 12 Angry Men rhetorical analysis. What example in your mind right now can effectively grab my reader's attention and really showcase the claim in my thesis statement.